Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and fellow dreamer, I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude and a mind buzzing with thoughts I believe need to be shared. The world we live in often tells us what we should do, who we should be, and what paths we should follow. From childhood, we're taught to conform, to fit into molds, to meet expectations. But what if the real magic lies not in conforming, but in embracing our individuality and doing what makes our soul happy? We are all born with dreams, with aspirations, with unique talents, but somewhere along the way, we forget what makes us feel alive. We get lost in the noise of what others expect, in the pressure of success, and in the chase for approval. And in this chase, we forget to ask ourselves, what truly makes my soul happy? Happiness is not something you can buy. It's not found in the perfect job or the most beautiful house. Happiness comes from a deep inner place. It's found when we embrace what feels right for us. When we stop chasing someone else's idea of success and start creating our own version of it. For me, happiness has never been in the external accolade, the trophies, or the approval of others. It has been in the moments when I could be unapologetically myself. In those quiet moments where I discovered my strength, my voice, and my power, not through the eyes of others, but through my own. We live in a world that thrives on comparison. We look at others and think, if only I could be like them, if only I had what they have. But remember this, their happiness is their journey. Your happiness is your own. And the only way to truly find it is to listen to your soul, to your heart, and to your intuition. Your journey is uniquely yours, and it is meant to be lived on your terms. When I began focusing on what made me happy, whether it was creating, sharing my story, or connecting with people who resonated with my truth, I found that the more I embraced that, the more at peace I felt. And this peace, this contentment, is something no one can take away from you. Whatever that thing is that brings you joy, no matter how small or how seemingly insignificant it might appear to the world, honor it. Whether it's painting, singing, writing, traveling, or simply helping others, those things feed your soul. They keep you aligned with your purpose. They are not distractions. They are your lifeline. It doesn't matter if your passion is unconventional or doesn't fit into the box that society has drawn for you. The world needs people who are willing to follow their heart, even when the path is unclear. When you choose to do what makes your soul happy, you inspire others to do the same. I want to tell you something. You are worthy. You are enough. And you deserve to live a life that makes your heart sing, that makes your soul light up. Life is too short to live for others, to dim your light for fear of what others might think. So ask yourself, what makes your soul happy? What is that thing that when you do it, you feel whole, complete, and at peace? And then do it. Pursue it with everything you have. Because when you follow your joy, you are not only honoring yourself, you are giving the world the gift of your authentic self. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for permission. Life is happening now. And the only approval you need is your own. Remember, this life is yours to live, so live it for you. Whatever makes your soul happy, do that. From the moment we are born, we are present with a set of rules, structures, and expectations designed to shape us into a particular mold. We are told who to be, what to do, how to act, and what success should look like. This conditioning starts early, often in the family, at school, and continues throughout society. We are taught that to succeed, we must follow a predefined path, achieve certain milestones, and blend into a world that demands conformity. But in the pursuit of fitting in, we risk losing the very essence of who we are, our individuality. And the concept of individuality is often undervalued in a world that thrives on comparison. We are constantly measured against others, told that we should be like someone else or achieve what someone else has achieved. But this pursuit of someone else's life, success, or happiness only leads to discontent. The truth is that every single person is unique, with their own set of talents, passions, and desires. The more we try to fit into someone else's box, the further we stray from discovering and embracing our true selves. We are often told that there is a right way to live, a correct path we must follow to be deemed successful or worthy. But the reality is that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to life. The world is full of diverse individuals, each with their own unique experiences, beliefs, and perspectives. What works for one person may not work for another, and yet society often fails to celebrate this diversity, instead pushing us toward uniformity. We live in a world where following a script is valued, while expressing our authentic selves is often met with confusion or even criticism. From a young age, many of us are taught to downplay our individuality in order to fit in with the crowd. In school, we learn to follow instructions, obey rules, and mimic behaviors that are considered acceptable by society. We are praised for getting good grades, adhering to social norms, and following a set of guidelines that dictate how we should behave. But the truth is, these structures are not designed to bring out the best in us. They are designed to create conformity. They force us to suppress our natural tendencies, passions, and inclinations in favor of fitting into a preordained mold. But what happens when we stifle our individuality? What happens when we deny our unique selves in favor of becoming something we are not? Over time, we begin to lose touch with who we really are. We feel disconnected, disillusioned, and often unfulfilled. The more we try to conform, the more we feel like we are living someone else's life instead of our own. We become prisoners of expectations, trapped in a cycle of trying to meet external standards instead of living for ourselves. Our life is bottled up, informed by external standards in the world around us. The sooner we find ourselves trying to meet external standards instead of living for ourselves. Our uniqueness is not a flaw, it is our greatest strength. Each person has something invaluable to offer, something that only they can give to the world. But this can only be realized when we are brave enough to embrace our individuality and let go of the need for external approval. When we truly allow ourselves to express who we are without fear of judgment or rejection, we open the door to a world of possibilities. We begin to see that our differences are not something to hide. They are what make us special. It is important to recognize that embracing our individuality does not mean rejecting others. It does not mean isolating ourselves or thinking we are better than anyone else. Rather, it means acknowledging that each person has their own path to follow and that our journey is unique to us. When we embrace who we are not only giving ourselves permission to be authentic, but we are also encouraging others to do the same. True individuality is not about standing apart from others. It is about recognizing that we all have something valuable to contribute, and that the diversity of our experiences and perspectives enriches the world around us. It is also crucial to understand that embracing individuality does not mean rejecting all external influence. We all have mentors, role models, and people we look up to, and that's perfectly fine. The key is to learn from others while still staying true to our own values and desires. Inspiration can come from many sources, but ultimately, it is our own inner voice that should guide us. We should allow ourselves to be influenced by the world around us, but we should never lose sight of our authentic selves in the process. In a society that often values conformity over creativity, it takes courage to stand out, to be different, and to follow your own path. But this courage is not something that comes naturally to everyone. Many of us are conditioned from a young age to seek approval from others, to avoid standing out, and to fit in with the crowd. We fear rejection, ridicule, and criticism, so we suppress our true selves in order to gain acceptance. But in doing so, we lose the very essence of who we are. We forget that our value is not determined by how well we blend in, but by how authentically we express ourselves. The journey toward embracing our individuality is not always easy. It requires introspection, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the fears and insecurities that hold us back. It requires the courage to trust ourselves, to trust our instincts, and to believe that we are worthy of living a life that reflects our true selves. It may mean making difficult choices, such as leaving behind relationships or situations that no longer align with our values. It may mean stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and facing the possibility of failure. But it also means opening ourselves up to the possibility of living a life that is truly our own, a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and meaningful. When we embrace our individuality, we give ourselves permission to explore and pursue what truly excites us. We become free to create, to innovate, and to express ourselves in ways that are uniquely our own. Our passions and interests may not align with the mainstream, but that's okay. The world needs people who are willing to think outside the box, who are willing to challenge the status quo, and who are willing to create something new and different. It is through embracing our individuality that we contribute to the richness and diversity of the world around us. The fear of being different is one of the greatest barriers to embracing our individuality. We worry that if we step outside the norm, we will be rejected, judged, or ridiculed. But the truth is that those who embrace their uniqueness are often the ones who leave a lasting impact on the world. It is the innovators, the dreamers, and the rebels who change the course of history. They are the ones who challenge the way things are and show us new possibilities. They inspire us to think differently and to see the world in a new light. The power of individuality lies in the fact that it cannot be replicated. No one else has your exact combination of experiences, perspectives, and talents. You are a one-of-a-kind creation, and that is something to be celebrated, not hidden. When you embrace your individuality, you begin to see the world through your own eyes, and you bring something entirely new to the table. You become an expression of your truest self, and in doing so, you inspire others to do the same. It is time to let go of the fear of judgment and the pressure to fit in. It is time to stop living for others and start living for yourself. Embrace your individuality. Honor your unique qualities. Trust your instinct and follow your passions. The world needs your authenticity, your creativity, and your perspective. You have something special to offer, and the only way to share that with the world is to be unapologetically yourself. The more we embrace our individuality, the more we contribute to the richness of the world around us. We inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of authenticity and self-expression. When we let go of the need to conform and begin to live according to our true selves, we create a world that values diversity, creativity, and individuality. We begin to see that it is not through blending in that we find our place in the world, but through standing out, through being true to who we are, and in doing so, we discover the greatest gift of all, the gift of living a life that is uniquely our own. True happiness is an internal state, not something external that can be bought or earned through the approval of others. In the pursuit of success, wealth, and material gains, we often overlook this simple truth. We are taught from a young age that happiness is the result of what we achieve, how much we own, and how others perceive us. We believe that if we just get the right job, the perfect relationship, or the dream house, we will finally be happy. But this is a flawed way of thinking, one that leaves us constantly chasing something that seems just out of reach. And once we attain it, the feeling of happiness is fleeting. True happiness cannot be found in external validation. It can only be cultivated from within. The world we live in often equates success with material wealth or societal status. We are bombarded with images of perfection in the media and on social platforms where success is measured by the number of followers, the brand of clothing, the car we drive, or the size of our bank accounts. This creates a false narrative that happiness is contingent upon what we have or how others see us. But happiness is not something you acquire or something that can be determined by the standards of others. It is a deeply personal and subjective experience. It arises from how we feel about ourselves, from the choices we make, and from the way we align our lives with our true values and desires. We often mistake fleeting moments of pleasure for genuine happiness. A new purchase, a compliment, or a quick achievement may bring joy in the short term, but this kind of happiness is temporary. It doesn't last. It's momentary, and as soon as the next thing comes along, we begin to feel dissatisfied again. The pursuit of external validation often leads to a cycle of disappointment, as the happiness we experience from material possessions or social approval is not sustainable. What we need is a deeper, more lasting sense of happiness that comes from a place of contentment and self-acceptance. The key to true happiness is not in achieving more, but in realizing that we are already enough. It comes from accepting ourselves for who we are, acknowledging our worth, and finding joy in the present moment. Happiness is not a destination, it is a journey. It is about learning to appreciate the little things in life, the moments that bring us peace, and the people who love us for who we are, not for what we have or what we can do for them. And in a world that constantly tells us to strive for more, it's easy to forget that contentment is not about what we lack, but about appreciating what we already have. True happiness lies in the ability to recognize that we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. It's about realizing that we don't need to live up to other people's standards or meet society's expectations to feel good about ourselves. When we let go of the need for external validation, we are free to embrace ourselves fully and authentically without comparison or judgment. The pursuit of external happiness often keeps us stuck in a cycle of seeking approval from others. We measure our worth by the amount of recognition or praise we receive, and as a result, we become dependent on others to tell us that we are good enough. But the problem with this approach is that it places our happiness in the hands of others. It gives them the power to define our sense of self-worth. When we rely on the approval of others to feel happy, we are constantly chasing something that can never truly fulfill us. The moment we stop seeking validation from others and instead focus on cultivating happiness from within, we take back control of our lives and our emotions. Happiness, at its core, is a choice. It's not something that happens to us based on circumstances or the people around us. It's a decision to find joy in what is, rather than constantly striving for what could be. This does not mean that we should settle for mediocrity or abandon our dreams. It simply means that we should not place our happiness in the future on the condition that something external will change. Happiness is about choosing to be content in the present, despite the challenges we may face or the goals we have yet to achieve. When we stop tying our happiness to external factors, we begin to realize that it is already within us. Happiness is a mindset, an attitude toward life. It's about being grateful for what we have, focusing on the positive aspects of our lives, and choosing to see opportunities rather than obstacles. It's about embracing who we are, imperfections and all, and finding peace in knowing that we don't need to change ourselves to meet the standards of others. The internal nature of happiness is what makes it so powerful. When we learn to cultivate happiness from within, we become more resilient, more grounded, and more self-sufficient. We stop relying on outside circumstances to define our mood or sense of well-being. We become less affected by the opinions of others, the ups and downs of life, and the unpredictability of the world around us. True happiness allows us to weather life's challenges with grace and calm because it is not dependent on anything outside of ourselves. It's also important to recognize that happiness is not a constant state. We all experience moments of sadness, frustration, and disappointment, and that's okay. Happiness does not mean that we are immune to life's difficulties. Rather, it means that we have the capacity to find joy and peace even in the midst of challenges. It's about accepting the ebb and flow of life and understanding that happiness is something we can return to, even in times of struggle. As we shift our focus away from seeking happiness in the approval of others or in external achievements, we begin to live more authentically. We begin to make choices based on our own values and desires rather than trying to meet the expectations of society or other people. This authenticity is what allows us to experience true joy. It is the freedom to be ourselves without fear of judgment, the courage to live in alignment with our own truth, and the ability to find happiness in the smallest of moments. True happiness is about embracing who we are, finding peace with where we are in life, and choosing to live in the present rather than waiting for something outside of ourselves to change. It is not about constantly chasing after more, but about realizing that everything we need for happiness is already within us. It is about choosing to be content with what we have and recognizing that we are enough, just as we are. The path to happiness and fulfillment is often shaped by the choices we make, and one of the most important choices we can make is to pursue what truly makes us feel alive. So many people spend their lives trying to meet the expectations of others, following paths laid out for them by society, family, or peers. But when we ignore what we love and focus solely on meeting these external demands, we miss out on what could bring us the most joy. The things that make our souls come alive, those passions, dreams, and interests that stir us from within, hold the key to true fulfillment. It is in these pursuits that we find not only happiness, but purpose. Living authentically means listening to your inner voice, the one that tells you what excites you, what brings you peace, and what fuels your spirit. But in a world that often values practicality and external success, we can easily lose sight of this. We can get caught up in the race to achieve goals that aren't our own, striving for things that we think will bring us approval or happiness. But in reality, they may not align with who we truly are. This disconnection between our inner desires and our actions can leave us feeling unfulfilled, as though something is missing, even when outwardly we may appear successful or accomplished. But behind our problems lie limitation. The truth is, our souls are wired for joy. Each of us has something that resonates with us at the deepest level. It could be creating something with our hands, writing stories, helping others, painting, traveling, or teaching. These passions are not frivolous. They are an expression of who we are at our core. When we make room for these passions in our lives, we align ourselves with a deeper sense of meaning. We move from simply existing to truly living. Our energy shifts and our lives become richer, more vibrant, and more fulfilling because we are no longer living for others or in pursuit of superficial goals. It's easy to get lost in the pressure to succeed by the standards set by society. We are constantly told that we need to achieve certain things to be considered successful, whether it's attaining a prestigious job, buying a house, getting married, or having children. While these are important milestones for some, they do not hold the same value for everyone. The definition of success should be personal, rooted in what makes you feel content and happy, not in what the world expects you to achieve. The pursuit of someone else's version of success can leave us feeling empty, even after we've checked off all the boxes. The beauty of pursuing what makes your soul happy is that it's inherently personal. What brings joy to one person may not have the same effect on someone else, and that's okay. The key is to stop comparing your journey to that of others. It's easy to look at other people's lives and think that their success or happiness is the right path to follow. But when we do that, we forget that we are each on a unique journey. The things that ignite your spirit, that make your heart beat a little faster, are the things that will bring you the most fulfillment. It's these passions and pursuits that will carry you through challenges, keep you motivated, and provide you with a deeper sense of meaning. This doesn't mean that you should ignore responsibilities or the realities of life. Pursuing what makes your soul happy doesn't necessarily mean that you will be free from challenges or hardships. Life is filled with ups and downs, and the road to fulfillment is not always smooth. However, when you are doing what you love, you find strength to overcome obstacles. The joy and satisfaction that comes from pursuing your passions can make the tough times easier to bear. It gives you a sense of purpose that can carry you through even the darkest of days. It's important to note that pursuing what makes your soul happy often requires courage. It takes courage to step away from the expectations of others, to choose a path that may be unconventional, and to follow your heart when it might seem easier to follow the crowd. We are conditioned to seek approval, to conform, and to make decisions based on what will garner us the most recognition or status. But true fulfillment does not come from the approval of others. It comes from staying true to ourselves, even when it's difficult. When we begin to pursue what makes our soul happy, we start to cultivate a deeper connection with ourselves. We learn to trust our instincts, to listen to our inner voice, and to let go of the fear of judgment. We stop looking outward for validation and instead focus on what feels right for us. In this process, we become more aligned with our true selves, and this alignment brings peace. We begin to understand that we are enough, and we do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. Our joy comes from the pursuit of what feels meaningful and fulfilling, not from external measures of success. Another beautiful thing about pursuing what makes your soul happy is that it's often contagious. When you live authentically, when you follow your passions with abandon, you inspire others to do the same. People are drawn to those who are genuinely happy, those who are living in alignment with their values and passions. This can create a ripple effect where others feel empowered to pursue their own joy. By living authentically and doing what makes you happy, you not only enrich your own life, but also contribute to the collective well-being of those around you. This pursuit doesn't have to be grand or world-changing. It doesn't have to look like someone else's version of success. It could be something as simple as dedicating time each day to a hobby, cultivating meaningful relationships, or finding peace in the quiet moments. The point is to identify the things that light you up, that make you feel alive, and to make space for them in your life. In a world that constantly pushes us to achieve, to compete, and to measure ourselves against others, it is easy to forget that the most important journey we can embark on is the one that is uniquely ours. Each of us has a different set of experiences, desires, and talents. And the only person we should be comparing ourselves to is the person we were yesterday. Our lives are shaped by the choices we make. And one of the most important choices we can make is to stop looking outward for validation and instead focus inward on what truly matters to us. When we spend our lives comparing ourselves to others, we lose sight of our own path. We start to measure our worth based on someone else's achievements, success, or happiness. We begin to believe that we must follow a certain timeline or checklist in order to be considered successful. And in doing so, we disconnect from what we truly want. We end up living according to someone else's standards, constantly chasing after things that are not aligned with our deepest desires. This external validation becomes a trap, and no matter how much we achieve or accumulate, we never feel truly fulfilled. The truth is, there is no one right way to live. There are countless paths to happiness, success, and fulfillment, and each one is different. What works for one person may not work for another, and that is perfectly okay. The key is to stop comparing your journey to others and start focusing on your own. Everyone's life is unique, and there is no universal roadmap that applies to all of us. We must allow ourselves the freedom to define success on our own terms, based on what brings us joy, peace, and fulfillment. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, we free ourselves from the pressure to conform. We allow ourselves to step off the treadmill of competition and focus on what truly matters to us. This shift in perspective is incredibly liberating. It allows us to stop living for the approval of others and instead start living for ourselves. We stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start asking, "Am I living authentically?" We let go of the need for validation and embrace the freedom that comes with following our own path. It is easy to get caught up in the success stories of others, especially in today's world of social media, where everyone's highlight reel is constantly on display. It can be overwhelming to scroll through endless images of seemingly perfect lives and think, "Why am I not there yet?" But what we often fail to realize is that these images are only a small piece of the story. They show the polished, curated version of someone's life, not the struggles, challenges, or moments of doubt that they have faced along the way. Comparing ourselves to these seemingly perfect lives is like comparing our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. It is not an accurate reflection of reality. And instead of measuring our worth against the accomplishments of others, we should focus on what we have already achieved in our own lives. We should take the time to reflect on the progress we've made, the lessons we've learned, and the growth we've experienced. It is easy to overlook these things when we are focused on what we haven't done yet or what we think we should be doing. But the truth is, every step we take, no matter how small, is part of our own unique journey. When we shift our focus to our own progress, we begin to see how far we've come, and this can inspire us to keep moving forward. Our worth is not defined by the number of followers we have, the amount of money we make, or the status we attain. These external markers of success do not determine who we are or how valuable we are. Our worth is intrinsic. It comes from within. When we focus on our own growth, our own values, and our own passions, we realize that we don't need anyone else's approval to feel worthy. We are enough, just as we are. Living authentically means making choices that are in alignment with who we truly are, not who we think we should be. It means being honest with ourselves about what we want and what brings us joy. It means creating a life that reflects our deepest values and desires, even if that life looks different from what others expect or what society deems successful. It takes courage to follow this path because it often involves stepping away from the norms and expectations of others. But it is also the only way to create a life that is truly fulfilling. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, we begin to embrace our own uniqueness. We recognize that our experiences, our struggles, and our successes have shaped us into who we are today. And rather than trying to fit into someone else's mold, we learn to celebrate our individuality. We realize that our differences are what make us special, and we stop apologizing for them. This self-acceptance allows us to live with more confidence and peace. We no longer feel the need to constantly prove ourselves or seek validation from others. We simply live as our authentic selves, knowing that this is enough. It is also important to remember that comparison often leads to unnecessary stress and anxiety. When we compare ourselves to others, we set ourselves up for disappointment. There will always be someone who seems to be further ahead, who has achieved more, or who appears to be living a more perfect life. But constantly measuring ourselves against these external standards will only leave us feeling inadequate. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we should shift our attention to what we have and the unique contributions we bring to the world. Choosing to stop comparing ourselves to others is an act of self-compassion. It is about recognizing that we are all on our own journey and that we are doing the best we can. It is about celebrating our progress, no matter how small, and acknowledging that we are enough just as we are. By focusing on our own path, we become more attuned to what truly brings us joy and fulfillment. We stop wasting energy on trying to meet the expectations of others and start investing that energy into creating a life that reflects our own values and desires. When we stop comparing ourselves to others, we open the door to a life of authenticity, self-love, and true happiness. Living authentically is one of the most powerful ways to inspire others and create meaningful connections. When we embrace who we truly are, without pretense or fear of judgment, we give others permission to do the same. There is an inherent beauty in living a life that reflects our true selves, and this radiates outward, affecting those around us in ways we may not even fully comprehend. By being true to ourselves, we not only experience a greater sense of fulfillment, but also become catalysts for change, encouraging others to step into their own authentic power. Too often, people hide parts of themselves to fit in, to be accepted, or to meet societal expectations. They wear masks, adopting personas that aren't really their own, simply to avoid judgment or rejection. In doing so, they suppress their true selves and deny the world the gift of their unique presence. But when we let go of the need to conform and begin to live from a place of authenticity, we begin to attract the right people into our lives, those who appreciate us for who we truly are. Authenticity is magnetic. When we are genuinely ourselves, we draw in others who resonate with our energy, our values, and our spirit. By living authentically, we demonstrate the importance of embracing our uniqueness. In a society that often encourages conformity, it takes courage to show up as we are. We live in a world that is constantly telling us how we should look, act, and behave. Social media, in particular, has magnified this pressure to fit in. It presents idealized versions of beauty, success, and happiness, leading many to believe that they must measure up to these standards in order to be accepted. But when we live authentically, we break free from this narrative. We show others that it is okay to be different, that there is no single definition of success or beauty, and that our worth is not determined by how well we fit into a particular mold. Living authentically is also about letting go of the fear of judgment. This is often one of the biggest obstacles to embracing our true selves. We fear that others won't accept us if we are honest about who we are, or that we will be criticized for not conforming to expectations. But the truth is, when we stop worrying about what others think, we free ourselves from the shackles of insecurity. We stop measuring our worth based on external validation and start valuing ourselves from within. This shift in mindset not only empowers us, but also sets an example for others to do the same. When people see someone living unapologetically, it encourages them to take the same leap of faith and embrace their true selves. The beauty of living authentically is that it allows us to build deeper, more meaningful relationships. When we show up as our real selves, we invite others to do the same. There is an inherent trust that is built when people can be themselves without fear of judgment. We attract those who appreciate us for who we are. And these relationships are often the most fulfilling. Authentic connections are rooted in vulnerability and honesty. And when we are true to ourselves, we create space for others to be honest as well. These types of relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding, and they allow for deeper emotional connections. Living authentically also brings clarity and direction to our lives. When we are constantly trying to please others or meet external expectations, we lose sight of what we truly want. We become disconnected from our inner desires and values. But when we embrace who we are, we begin to make choices that are aligned with our true purpose. We stop living for others and start living for ourselves. This clarity gives us the courage to pursue our passions, to take risks, and to follow the path that feels right for us. It becomes easier to make decisions because we are no longer trying to live up to someone else's vision of success. We become more confident in our choices because they are rooted in who we truly are. When we live authentically, we inspire others to embrace their own uniqueness. The act of living from a place of authenticity is contagious. It encourages others to shed the masks they wear and to show up as their true selves. The more we embrace our own authenticity, the more we create a ripple effect in the world around us. Our courage to be ourselves gives others the permission and confidence to do the same. This creates a collective shift where more and more people begin to live in alignment with their true selves, leading to a society that celebrates diversity, individuality, and self-expression. Living authentically also means embracing our flaws and imperfections. Many of us spend a significant amount of time trying to hide our vulnerabilities, believing that they make us less worthy or less capable. But the truth is, our imperfections are what make us human, and they are often the things that make us most relatable to others. When we embrace our flaws, we not only accept ourselves, but we also create a space where others feel comfortable being vulnerable too. Authenticity is not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about acknowledging our mistakes, learning from them, and growing in the process. This level of self-acceptance is incredibly powerful because it allows us to live without the constant fear of failure or judgment. Living authentically also gives us the freedom to be creative. When we stop trying to fit into someone else's mold, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. We begin to explore new ways of expressing ourselves, whether that's through art, work, or relationships. Creativity thrives when we allow ourselves to be true to who we are, without fear of criticism or rejection. It is in this freedom that we discover our true potential. We unlock our ability to innovate, to problem solve, and to bring something unique to the world. As we continue to live authentically, we inspire others to do the same, creating a world where people are free to express themselves without fear of judgment or rejection. Authenticity is contagious, and the more we embrace our true selves, the more we empower others to do the same.